Hello everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another royal news video. My apologies, there has been such a big gap. It was almost like the moment when I said I'll be putting out more regular content. I've built a studio, this is going to be fabulous. My body decided that it had other ideas. So where we left off, I was on my way to the ball to get ready and I started feeling a little bit unwell. I took some painkillers, which had an undesirable effect mixed with a couple of glasses of wine. So I apologise to anybody that met me towards the end of the evening. I just reached a point where I was like, I need to leave now immediately because I was feeling rather rotten. But the ball was lovely. It's always lovely getting dressed up. Obviously, I got ready with my friend Amber and going to the ball, meeting lots of new people. It's exciting, but I've also realised that I do still suffer from a little bit of social anxiety. I was really nervous, I think because my husband wasn't with me. But yes, there were so many lovely people there. Obviously, I saw P. Dina again. She looked absolutely fabulous. Lady C, I don't know how she does it. Honestly, she just constantly had a circle of people around her talking to her. And she was, of course, the hostess with the mostess who looked gorgeous in a beautiful red dress. Obviously, I saw Dan who was there with his partner. Lovely to see Dan. He's such a sweetheart. But yes, it was really good fun. Will I go next year? Hopefully I will do if Lady C hosts another ball and provided my husband will come with me, because I was a little bit of, I guess a bit of a wallflower for a change, which is hard to believe with me. But I actually spent the evening talking to two of the nicest gentlemen I've ever met in my life, and that is James and his partner JP. So thank you for making my night extra special. So let's move away from that ball where there were lots of ball gowns and tiaras, and let's talk about the royal state visit. Last week we saw the President of France and his First Lady Brigitte Macron step down the stairs of a plane. Luckily this time she decided not to slap her husband, and they met with the Prince and Princess of Wales. Now, we always know that Catherine is going to look exceptional. We know that she's always going to look lovely and pristine and her hair is going to be stunning. But this has to be one of my truly favourite outfits that I have ever seen her wear, and it was the first time that she had actually worn Christian Dior. The jacket and skirt combination was in blush pink, and the skirt had just the right amount of poofy, princessy vibes to it, but with that sharply tailored jacket nipped in at her waist, a style that Dior was famous for in 1947. She looked honestly divine. Well, she did in fact look like the perfect princess, and it's clear that Prince William thought so too, because the amount of loving and sweet glances that these two shared was beautiful to watch. The incredible photographs with a stunning backdrop of flowers behind them. I actually forgot that we were meant to be paying attention to the state visit and not just watching the Prince and Princess of Wales. Now, of course, the charm was laid on not just by the French president, but also the king, who warmly welcomed the couple to Windsor, where the two heads of state inspected the guard of honour. Now, notice here that he walked in front of the king. You should also be aware that in the UK, the newspapers didn't quite go to town like they did when Donald Trump did the same thing to the Queen. Now, I keep politics out of my videos because it's tedious and it's boring, and I think we have enough of that in the news every single day. But isn't it funny, the completely different style of reporting on the different head of state? After the troops had been inspected, the regimental band played the national anthems of both countries as the king's guests looked on, and there was also a lovely carriage ride, much to the delight of Windsor Castle crowds, which saw the President and the First Lady waving alongside Catherine and William, and of course Queen Camilla and the King. One would think that everything went smoothly. It did not, however. There seemed to be a bit of a comedy skit that entered the chat, because when the King and Queen were busy keeping their guests occupied, shall we say, the French staff and security team were unpacking all of their luggage into Windsor Castle. Whatever happened, it took them too long to do, and then they were notified that the carriages and of course the world's media would soon be following. So then they panicked and they drove off with the doors open, the boot open, and all of the luggage fell out. Honestly, I bet people were mortified that were there. I hope no one got in too much trouble for it. It was was just a momentary mistake, but it almost needed the Benny Hill comedy music playing in the background. The French delegation were then invited to view a special collection of art and literature from the royal collections held at Windsor Castle, and we saw a few of our other favourite royals mingling with guests before the big banquet that was held later that evening. Queen Camilla was dressed in white, Bridget Macron was in blue, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, wore red to represent the colours of both countries' flags, where our other royals who were in attendance matched the Queen's outfit of also wearing white. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh were all smiles as they walked into the main hall, and Sophie was wearing that beautiful Wessex aquamarine tiara, which was designed personally for her own collection, which means you will not see other members of the royal family ever wearing this, and it can also be turned into a rather beautiful necklace as well. The Princess Royal and her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence, also looked quite the majestic pair as they walked in. Princess Anne has done something different to her hair. I couldn't quite put my finger on what she's done different. She looked really lovely. Now, obviously, my favourite is going to be the Princess of Wales dramatic cape dress, but there was another senior royal who came in that had me doing the wow, and that was the Duchess of Gloucester, who was wearing the turquoise tiara and lots of matching accessories. She is another woman in that family who is aging beautifully, and it wasn't the only event that the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester had attended which saw her in a tiara in the space of 24 hours, because the following day the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester hosted another banquet at London Guildhall in honour of the French President and the First Lady, which saw the Duchess wear the Queen Mary's honeysuckle tiara, and that with that matching necklace is another breathtaking piece of royal jewellery. She looked lovely on both days. But we've got to talk about, as I said, Catherine, who we always know is going to look beautiful, and we always get excited. Royal watchers get excited. It's a state banquet. It's the first one that she has obviously been well enough to attend in the last couple of years, and she did not disappoint. Yet again, choosing to wear a French label. This was from French fashion house Givenchy. But it should be noted that the designer who is now working under that fashion house is Sarah Burton, who designed Catherine's breathtaking wedding dress and also the dress that she wore for the King's coronation. So it shouldn't come as such a shock that she wore a dress that again just looks stunning on her. I know that Catherine has said before she wishes people would concentrate more on what she's actually doing, the things that she's highlighting, rather than her fashion choices. But I think at state banquets and events, that should be a write-off. I'm here for the fashion, for the jewels, for the sparkles on all the royal ladies. I'm unashamed to admit it. I am here for all of the pomp, all of the pageantry. I am here for every tiny little detail. And of course, with a state banquet, you have to admit, they put on an incredibly good show. Now, as for Catherine and her very dutiful husband, Prince William, it wasn't just during the day that these two were looking at each other with so much love between them. This carried on into the evening as well. I can't imagine how scary the last 18 months or so has been for the couple, but they seem stronger now than ever before. Whilst I certainly do not wish to speed up King Charles's reign, I think it's safe to say that the monarchy will be left in some very, very safe hands. Prince William is a fantastic statesman, and Catherine also has a wonderful yet subtle diplomacy that sees her easily charm whoever it is that she's hosting. The King and Queen naturally put on a spectacular banquet for their guests, and you had some interesting guests in attendance. You had Mick Jagger, and you also had superstar Elton John. Elton John was sat alongside his partner David Furnish and the Duchess of Gloucester. This put some people into a bit of a tizzy because he was a big defender of Harry and Meghan in the past. as were quite a lot of other people that still choose to work with the King or Prince William and the palace. You have Idris Elba, who is about to star in a Netflix show alongside the King for all of the work that the King does through the King's Trust, previously the Prince's Trust, which actually helped give Idris Elba his career, his step up into fame. And he is doing a lot now to help the younger generation himself. Then you have George and Amal Clooney. George Clooney was a big defender, wasn't he, of poor Meghan, poor, horrible, evil UK people attacking her because they wanted just a life away from the monarchy. That backfired in George Clooney's face. And obviously Amal, she was there, wasn't she, at the baby shower. George, Idris, Amal, they didn't know Harry and Meghan. They only were invited so Meghan could use them, same as Oprah, for connections when she managed to seal the deal when Megxit was actually going to happen. Because Megxit had always been the plan. Meghan and Harry were in this together. And I think a lot of people that stuck their heads above the parapet to defend the young couple, it makes me laugh, the couple that wanted a life of privacy, away from the gilded cage. They wanted to go be private citizens. Away in Canada it first started, didn't it? With their babe in arms. They didn't want titles for their son. They just wanted to have a normal life. Just call me Harry. The wall has officially come off now, hasn't it? I think Harry and Meghan have shown themselves to be completely duplicitous. And I think even those people have come to realise that Harry and Meghan did an awful lot of lying. It was all about building up this false narrative, the evil, racist, archaic institute, the royal family, that the people that defended Harry and Meghan still want to work with. So what does that tell you? I think it's become more obvious to even those that were slightly blinkered with a very convincing crying Meghan, one tear, left eye, go, and of course a poor Harry, who never got hugged or had bike rides with his father. I think people can see that it was all a bunch of bullshit. It was a scam. It was a pity party designed to make people feel sorry for them so then they could later cash in on it with books and interviews, Netflix and Oprah. They had been planning that for a very, very long time. Harry and Meghan have got no credibility left. This is why there's no big A-list Hollywood stars promoting Meghan's alcohol launch. Just a few mostly unheard of influencers who are paid to promote people's wares and tears regardless of what they actually think of the product. Meghan's overpriced bottles of rosé are now beginning to arrive at people's homes, looking like they are wrapped up in school toilet paper with not so much as a few free dead flower sprinkles on them. The reviews have already started to come in from people that were silly enough to pay for Meghan's wine, and they are all saying similar things. It's acidic and it's bland. A bit like the woman that curated it, which we know that she didn't, because it's come out that Meghan's rosé wine was made by Fair Winds Estate in California, who now advertise Meghan as one of their clients. See, I'm not so sure that that's the best idea, given the fact that Meghan does definitely have a very famous curse, and it is the reverse Midas touch. Anything that she touches turns to utter shite. And you've only got to look at Harry's reputation to see my case in point, who at a time when his father is hosting another state banquet and you've got lots of senior politicians and Hollywood A-listers and all sorts of people at this event, the king is giving a speech talking about his eldest son and how proud he is of him. And then you've got Harry, who's made an appearance in puppet form, yet again, it's hard to tell the difference, on Spitting Image. Harry is being painted as a drug-addled, dim-witted puppet. I mean, honestly, if the cap fits. Even Spitting Image have managed to pick up on the change in Harry over the recent years, which will no doubt leave him spitting with rage. Gone are his blue eyes and his full mane of ginger hair. Now we have the permanently frowning, seriously balding Harry, who is savaged for not only having a balding bonce, but also the fact he has no discernible talent, and the show also saw him begging to speak to his father. I mean, clearly there are no lies detected in their impressions of him. That, of course, being said, isn't it truly a sad state of affairs that Harry, who just mere years ago was one of the most popular royals around the world, Harry had a huge fan base. People loved him. He was as nearly as popular as Queen Elizabeth II. He was more popular than even Prince William and Catherine in the polls. And now Harry is only really mentioned when he's the butt of people's jokes. And it all comes down to this one woman, a one-woman wrecking ball of not just relationships in her life, but also the relationships of her husband. Now, there's been a few stories that have come out in recent days that I want to talk to you guys about in my next video, because I've really reached a point with all of this Harry and Meghan storyline that we've been following for a long time, that I don't think Meghan is quite the villain that she's been painted out to be, and rather more of a willing participant in a one-sided war that was being waged by a very angry and unstable man-child. I do believe that Meghan has used Harry as a stepping stone, but I also do believe that Harry used Meghan to start throwing the first really damaging stones towards his family. And I think between them, they came up with the perfect game plan, which benefited both of them. But as time has gone on, because it's not a marriage, I would say, arranged out of love, you can see why they have both become so acidic as Meghan's rosé wine. So guys, I will be back with you very soon. I will chat to you in the comments. Join me back here in the next couple of days. And this time, I promise, I will be back. Take care. Bye.